I crawled out of the coffin, having been dead for 5 years. My skin was still as white and lustrous as jade, as if I had only been asleep, staring at the name Pei Yanyan on the tombstone. My mind was a complete blank. I could only rely on blurry memories to find my way back to the Prime Minister's estate in the capital. At the city gates, I brushed past a black, opulent carriage. I had no idea that the person sitting inside was Xie Lin, the emperor who had gone mad over me for the past 5 years. He looked at the empty, unearthed grave before him, his eyes bloodshot. "Who did this, Your Majesty? The body. It's gone. Find them. Bring Yanyan's body back to my side." He stood in the moonlight, like a drawn, wicked blade. The common folk called him the Mad Emperor, because on the day I died 5 years ago, he slaughtered most of the imperial court. The blood washed the ground for 3 days and 3 nights. "Uncle Jiang, I've returned." "A ghost? Who dares to play such tricks?" "Second brother, it's me, Yanyan. You've really come back." That night, the Prime Minister's estate fell into chaos. My eldest brother, Pei Jingzhou, usually cold as ice, dropped his memorials and wept like a child. My father, Pei Hong, the left Prime Minister, abandoned all decorum and sobbed uncontrollably. My mother, Lady Sun, held me tightly and refused to let go. Yanyan's resurrection must never be leaked out. Especially, it must not reach the one in the palace. Exactly. That man has already lost his mind. If he finds out Yanyan is alive, there's no telling what insane things he might do. That night, I had an embarrassing dream. In the dream, someone was kissing my fingertips, my forehead, my eyes. Burning kisses filled with a crazed affection I couldn't comprehend. He whispered my name over and over in my ear. The next morning, my whole family gathered around to feed me. "Eat this. Yanyan, have some of this chilled yogurt. Etiquette is meant to be broken. Yanyan should eat whatever she wants." Father and older brother left for the imperial court, brimming with reluctance. Before leaving, they still bore the dark circles from a sleepless night of joy. Prime Minister Pei Yanyan's grave was robbed yesterday. The body is missing. What? Who would dare touch Yanyan's grave? I will tear that grave robber to shreds. I will continue to investigate. Watching the father and son retreat into the distance, Xie Lin could no longer suppress the madness in his eyes. Something is not right. Upon hearing the body was stolen, their reaction was far too slow. "Someone, keep a close watch on the Pei household. I want to see if you have hidden Yanyan away." I put on my veil cap, ready to head out. Mother Sun carefully smoothed my clothes and urged me, "You may only go to the silk shop and the cosmetic store. Do not wander off. And you must never take off your veil cap. Do you understand?" "I understand, Mother." After finishing breakfast, I returned to my room and discovered a major problem. Having been dead for 5 years, my old clothes were either damp or moth-eaten in the bottom of a chest unfit to be worn. Even the cosmetics I used to use had long since gone bad. I wanted to go out and buy some. At the same time, I also wanted to see what the capital was like after 5 years. Mother Sun and Pei Hong had already agreed that we must not let outsiders know I had returned from the dead, but they couldn't bear to keep me cooped up at home forever. Does this mean as long as it is not made public, I can never go out? Pei Wufeng, standing to the side, said nonchalantly, "Mother, don't you worry. With me by her side, nothing will happen to little sister." Mother Sun glared at him. "It is precisely because you are there that I am not at ease. You are a general of the martial guard now. So don't you dare lead Yanyan into any more trouble." She then gave me a few more instructions before reluctantly seeing us off. As soon as I stepped out, I widened my eyes, peering through the veil, gazing around in curiosity. "Second brother, the capital is even busier than before." Pei Wufeng quickly scanned the surroundings, ensuring there was no danger. Then he grinned and said, "That is only natural ever since the new emperor." At this mention, he stopped abruptly, stole a glance at me, and seeing I wasn't upset, he continued, "The government has undergone radical reforms these past few years. Taxes have been reduced, and many foreigners have come to the capital. After we finish our shopping, I'll take you to see them." We walked into the Jinyi boutique together. It was much larger than I remembered, and the styles of clothing were diverse, many of them even incorporating Western elements, which was quite novel being a lover of beauty. I used to shop here often. and now I was like a fish in water, curiously picking out several outfits to try on. After changing, I wanted to show my second brother, but I looked around and couldn't find Pei Wufeng anywhere. I didn't know where he had gone. At this moment, I was standing before a bronze mirror, wearing a red pleated skirt, with a goose yellow silk scarf draped over my waist, looking like a pomegranate flower blooming towards the sun. Although I wore a veil and my full face was hidden, my graceful silhouette still drew the attention of many customers. "Shopkeeper, do you have another skirt like this one?" A voice sounded from behind me. "Oh my, I am so sorry, Miss Chen. There is only this one such skirt in the entire capital." I hadn't paid any attention at first, still standing before the mirror adjusting my clothes, but my shoulder was suddenly grabbed, and I was yanked back several steps. The same female voice screeched, "I've taken a liking to this skirt. Take it off. You ugly freak hiding behind a veil. Do you really deserve to wear this?" I saw it first. "How dare you? My young lady is the only daughter of the Minister of Revenue and the fiancée of General Pei Wufeng. Take it off now. My second brother is actually engaged to a woman like this. Do it. Strip her clothes off." Several wicked servants pinned me down, trying to rip my clothes off. In my desperation, I don't know where I found the strength, but I bit down hard on Lin Yantong's wrist, beat her to death. Just as the fist was about to land, with a few dull thuds, the servants holding me were kicked away one after another like discarded sacks. "What are you doing? Why are you only just getting back?" The usually formidable young general was so startled that he dropped the pastries in his hand. He comforted me, his face full of remorse. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, please don't be mad at second brother, okay? General P. I'm your fiancé. She was the one who bit me first." But when second brother slowly turned to look at Lin Yantong, his gaze instantly turned murderous. With a few sharp cracks, all the servants who had laid a hand on me had their arms broken by my brother, who remained expressionless. The shop echoed with screams. "Who do you think you are? Go! Hit her back. That's right. No one in our PA family ever takes a loss." I walked forward and landed a sharp, ringing slap across Lin Yantong's face. "In this whole capital, you are the only one who looks best in this dress. Those with wicked hearts and ugly souls can't even compare to a fraction of you. Let's go. How could you be engaged to someone like that? 5 years ago, you were murdered. In order to obtain investigation leads from the Ministry of Revenue, I had to agree. I refused to let her set foot in the PI family. And one more thing, second brother, I want to learn martial arts. I can't always wait for you to save me." "Okay. Second brother will teach you." That day, the events at Jin Yifeng reached the imperial palace. The mad emperor, clad in black, hid in the shadows. Fiddling with his prayer beads, his eyes were bottomless. Pei Wufeng broke ties with the Lin family for the sake of a mysterious woman. Yes, he even brought her back to the prime minister's estate. They are quite close. Investigate that woman's identity also. Keep searching. Bring me Yanyan's remains. The PA family returned everything, the matchmaker and the betrothal gifts. "What kind of disaster have you caused?" "They broke off the engagement." "Father, please go beg the prime minister, please." The PA family broke off the engagement this quickly. It means you've stepped on their greatest taboo. The people you've provoked are not ordinary. Forget about your marriage. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to keep my position, let alone your marriage. Lin Yantong's face turned ashen as she collapsed completely to the floor. "Yanyan, father and big brother have already handled the annulment." "Huh. Why is this red leather ball here?" The smile on second brother's face froze instantly. Everyone in the family except for me knew that on the anniversary of my death, it was the mad emperor himself who placed it before my grave. "Second brother, wasn't this placed at my grave by you all?" "No, we didn't put it there. Let's go. Second brother is going to teach you how to hold a horse stance." Watching second brother's guilty, evasive expression, a sense of unease rose within me. Who on earth would leave something like this at my grave? Just then, a sharp announcement shattered the silence from the front courtyard. "The emperor has arrived." The entire family was struck with panic. They tried desperately to block his path, but the crazed Emperor Xie Lin seemed to have had a premonition. He headed straight for the back courtyard, and in the panic, second brother shoved me into the wardrobe in my boudoir. "Your Majesty, I apologize that I did not meet you at the gate. My daughter's chambers are quite unkempt. Perhaps we should move to the study to talk." "No matter, I do not mind the filth." "Your Majesty, the back courtyard hasn't been cleaned in a while. I fear it may offend your eyes. You refuse to let me into the back courtyard. Are you hiding some secret you cannot let me know?" I would not dare, your majesty. Step aside, I miss her. I wish to stay here for a while. Through the narrow crack in the wardrobe doors, I saw the once gentle brother Lin, having shed his youthful spirit, left only with a pair of pitch-black eyes that made one drown with a single glance. Just then, he suddenly let out a self-deprecating laugh, as if he still lived here himself. Could it be, as they say, that I have truly gone mad? I was so nervous I didn't dare breathe. I watched helplessly as he walked straight to the table and picked up the teacup I used to love the most. Xie Lin's gaze suddenly shifted. From dead silence to fanatical obsession, he lowered his head, and his sharp, thin lips pressed precisely against the rim of the cup. I miss you so much. I miss you so much. Not only that, he actually turned around and grabbed the thin silk from the bedside. That was my undergarment I had just changed out of today. He buried his face deep into the clothing, his broad shoulders trembling slightly, releasing a low, crazed laugh. Yanyan, my Yanyan, I can actually smell your scent. The low, hoarse whisper felt like he was breathing right against my ear. My face flushed crimson in an instant. The dignified son of heaven. Has he been doing this in secret for the past 5 years? After a long while, Xie Lin finally calmed the trembling of his body. He carefully tucked my soiled undergarment into his robes, straightened his attire, pushed the door open, and walked out. I have sent men to search for Yanyan's remains. If you have any leads, let us know immediately. Your subject obeys. We will surely do our utmost to find Yanyan. Xie Lin swept a cold glance over my mother and turned to leave. But just as he was about to step out of the courtyard, his footsteps suddenly froze in place. His gaze locked firmly onto the camellia tree in the corner of the yard. There, resting quietly, was a red leather kickball painted with ginkgo leaf patterns. Xie Lin's pupils constricted violently. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white, his whole body trembling from the immense effort of restraint. That was the funerary object he had personally sewn and placed before my grave days ago. Yet here it was, appearing in the PI's backyard. Seeing him suddenly stop, Pei Hong asked him what was wrong. Xie Lin's hands clenched and relaxed, repeating the motion several times, pressing down the boiling urges in his heart, fighting the overwhelming desire to turn back and inspect that red ball. His body tensed until it pained him. Then he lifted his foot and continued walking forward. It is nothing, he gritted out through clenched teeth, then added, return to the palace. Only once he was in the carriage, with no one else around, did all his emotions surge into his eyes. Horror, suspicion, shock, longing, obsession. These complex emotions were twisted together, dyed in the colors of madness. Xie Lin closed his eyes for a moment, then looked down at his right hand, which was still trembling slightly. He shook and took the undergarment belonging to Yanyan out from his robes, clutching it in my hand, as if holding Yanyan herself. Yanyan, don't rush. We will see each other very soon. With the mad emperor finally gone, the PA family breathed a sigh of relief. I rushed to my room in a hurry and began searching everywhere. Yanyan, Yanyan, where are you? The emperor has already left. Come out now. After calling out a few times, the wardrobe door opened and I stepped out blushing. Father, mother, brother, I'm here. Everyone immediately hurried over, anxiously checking on my condition. So you were hiding in there. The emperor didn't spot you, did he? I shook my head. Sun patted her chest in relief and asked, confused, the emperor really frightened us just now. To come to our home so suddenly, and even stay in your room all alone, who knows what he might have done? Xie Lin's actions from just a moment ago instantly surfaced in my mind, and my cheeks flushed a deep red. I kept my head down, saying nothing. Seeing this, my eldest brother Pei Yanyan asked, Yanyan, why is your face so red? Is it too stuffy in the wardrobe? Did you overheat? I wished I could just disappear into a crack in the floor. I stammered. Today's events were so sudden. It is fortunate you weren't discovered. Next time we must prepare sooner. We can't just have Yanyan hide in the wardrobe every time. It will make her feel ill. As he spoke, my second brother picked up a teacup from the table, poured me some tea and handed it over. Drink some tea quickly and calm yourself down. Seeing that cup, I was once again reminded of Xie Lin holding it and kissing it. His sharply defined lips, that lingering kiss, and his whispered murmurs. How could I dare touch it? How could I dare use that cup to drink? But Pi Wufeng was unaware. Seeing me not move, he asked curiously, what is wrong? You're not drinking. Could there be something wrong with the tea? Saying this, he turned the cup, ready to take a sip himself to check. Startled, I hurriedly snatched the teacup from him. Without a second thought, I brought the cup to my lips and took a small sip. My voice was no louder than a mosquito's hum. I'm fine. I'm already much better, though I said that. My lips burned where they touched the rim of the cup. The cool tea slid down my throat, but instead of cooling me off, it only made me feel hotter. I was drinking from a cup that Xie Lin had just kissed. The mere thought of it made my heart race. My family didn't notice a thing, and were still analyzing why Xie Lin had come so suddenly today. My ears were ringing, and I couldn't hear a single word. All right, let's do it that way. Yanyan, do you agree with this plan? My eldest brother's voice brought me back to reality. I realized everyone was looking at me. I quickly pulled my thoughts back together. What? Pei Jingzhou explained. Your confrontation with Lin Yantong today will certainly reach the emperor's ears. With his suspicious nature, he will surely send men to investigate. For all we know, the emperor's shadow guards are already surrounding the prime minister's estate. If Yanyan stays here, she will be discovered by the emperor sooner or later. We have no choice but to secretly send you out of the capital. Upon hearing I was to be sent away, I said anxiously, I don't want to leave the capital. I can't bear to be apart from you all. These past 5 years may have been just like a long sleep to me, but for the Pei family it was a full 5 years. Every day of those 5 years felt like a year in itself, filled with unbearable agony. Now that I have returned from the dead, reunited with them, they are the ones who dread being parted from me the most. Yet, for my own safety, they had to do this. Pei Hong's eyes filled with tears, full of reluctance. Your father cannot bear to let you go either, but the emperor has clearly set his sights on us. He cannot know you are still alive. I was about to object. Why can't Brother Lin know? But I immediately remembered the madness in my room earlier. I couldn't say it, so I changed my tune. I can stay indoors and wear a veil at all times, so no one will ever see my face. Pei Hong shook his head and said, the emperor does not know that you have come back to life. He believes your body was stolen and is currently turning the world upside down to find your whereabouts. He won't let even the slightest clue slip by. He won't let a single trace slide, and besides, we can't bear to keep you hidden away, wearing a veil for the rest of your life. Unable to show your face, he patted my head affectionately. I bit my lower lip gently. Then where do you intend to send me? And when the city is already under martial law? Everyone entering or leaving the capital is being searched. Actually, the Spring Banquet in 2 days is an opportunity. The Spring Banquet in 2 days is hosted by the Imperial Palace. It will be held at the Royal Gardens. All the royalty, nobility, and high-ranking officials must attend. Even the emperor will be there, so the city gates will be wide open. Carriages of high officials will be coming and going. Pei Jingzhou and Pei Wufeng will be responsible for stalling Xie Lin. Mother will take the chance to smuggle you out within the convoy. You will head straight out of the capital, going directly to Mother's family home in Suzhou. Once you have left safely, the Pei family will announce that Mother has returned home to visit relatives. Everything will be done without anyone knowing. Once you get there with Mother by your side, I will take care of you. Mother held my hand tightly. Rest assured, Yanyan, she comforted me. You are only leaving for a short while. Once we have handled matters here in the capital, we will find a way to bring you back. If the emperor still refuses to let you go, the whole family will resign from our posts and come find you. Nothing is more important than our family being together. Looking at the concerned faces of my family, I finally nodded my head. I will follow Father's arrangement. I will follow all arrangements. Over the next 2 days, the Prime Minister's residence looked no different than usual. Pei Hong and Pei Jingzhou went to the morning court as usual, handling official business. Pei Wufeng even took time to go to the barracks to drill troops. Mother would occasionally go out to purchase jewelry and clothing, but not much, so it didn't arouse any suspicion. But in private, everyone was fully prepared, packing their luggage, waiting for the right time to safely send me out of the capital. I took on my task, packing the luggage I was to take to Suzhou: clothes, jewelry, rouge, and some books I usually read and small trinkets I play with. That red leather ball definitely had to be brought along. Even now, I have no idea who sent it, and I've asked my eldest brother, but he flatly denied it. But when I asked him who had sent it, he just stammered and couldn't name anyone. Although its origin is unknown, I am very fond of this ball. Once I take it to Suzhou, perhaps I can invite Yueying and the other maids to play a game of kickball in the courtyard. That would be great fun too. After placing the ball into the chest, I looked around. Most of the items in the room had already been cleared out. My gaze couldn't help but fall upon the teacup on the table. Ever since that day, I haven't touched that cup again, let alone using it to drink water. Even just glancing at it makes my face flush and my heart race. If that incident hadn't occurred, I definitely would have taken my favorite cup with me. But now, I feel conflicted. I stole a glance at the table, and Xie Lin's voice immediately echoed in my mind. I took a few steps back and sat on the bed, only to feel as if I were sitting exactly where Xie Lin had sat that day, as if scorched. I jumped up instantly, How could he be so brazen? How could he do such a thing to my clothes? I thought to myself, blushing. With a cool breeze blowing outside, I leaned against the daybed and drifted off to sleep before I knew it. In my dream, I was hovering high in the air, looking down at my own body lying quietly in the ice chamber. My face was deathly pale, devoid of any vitality. Is this what happened after I died? As I wondered this, Xie Lin walked in from outside. He looked absolutely terrible, his face haggard, his appearance withered, his eyes filled with nothing but heartbreak and sorrow. I had never seen him like this. Xie Lin sat by the ice bed, his gaze fixed upon me. He didn't look like he was watching a corpse. He looked more like he was watching a beloved. Those words surfaced in my mind, giving me a start. Yanyan. Xie Lin leaned down and pressed his forehead gently against mine, his eyes lingering and tender, as if whispering sweet words. Today, your father and brother broke into the Eastern Palace, demanding that I return you to them. They have already searched for a tomb, saying they want to lay you to rest in the earth. They actually want to bury you in the ground. It is so dark in there. You'll surely be afraid. Just stay by my side like this. All right. I will stay with you forever. I will never let you face any danger again. He looked at my curled eyelashes, waiting for an answer that didn't come, but he seemed to have grown accustomed to that. A moment later, he smiled happily. Yanyan, your silence means you agree, doesn't it? Yanyan is so good. I know you can't bear to leave me. I can't bear to leave you either. Xie Lin kept his head lowered, whispering to a corpse. The young emperor sat with hunched shoulders, as if he might collapse from grief at any moment. I drifted in midair, listening quietly. Seeing his pained expression, I felt a dull ache in my heart. I didn't have many memories of my own death. I only heard about it from my family later. I thought my family must have been heartbroken back then, but I never imagined Xie Lin would be in such agony. Brother Lin. I called out softly. He showed no reaction at all. Infected by Xie Lin's sorrow, my eyes stung, and tears threatened to fall. But the next moment, I saw Xie Lin take out a woman's dress. He spread it out beside the corpse. Xie Lin appeared full of excitement, but it was more like madness. I had people look into it. You like clothes from the Jinyi workshop. I ordered these dresses to be bought for you. It is your favorite shade of red. It suits your complexion best. As he said this, his voice faltered. His gaze fell upon my deathly pale face. A paleness devoid of even a trace of blood, signifying that the owner of this body had already died. His expression stiffened for a moment. Then he immediately said, "Let me help you change. These blood-stained clothes should have been changed long ago." As he spoke, he actually began to undress me. "No, you can't," I flushed with urgent panic, longing to rush over and shield my own body. I tried to cover Xie Lin's eyes with my hands, but my hands passed right through him. I was powerless, able only to blush deeply. I watched helplessly as Xie Lin unfastened my blood-stained clothes, and then helped me put on clean ones piece by piece. Once dressed, aside from my deathly pale complexion, I looked as if I were merely sleeping. Lying quietly on the ice bed, Xie Lin combed through my disheveled hair quietly, gently. I don't know how long my body had been kept here. As the wooden comb pulled through my hair, a lock of black hair fell away with it. Xie Lin's expression turned frantic in an instant. He held the short hair in his hands at a complete loss, his face full of horror and agony. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, did I hurt you? It is okay. I'll fix it back on for you in a moment. You'll be fine." Xie Lin clutched the hair, his trembling hands trying to place it back on my head, only to cause even more hair to fall out. I was starting to decay finally. Xie Lin broke down completely. He knelt on the ground, pressing his forehead against me as he wept bitterly, like a wounded, trapped beast. A long while later, he slowly climbed onto the ice bed and lay beside me, holding me tightly, muttering to himself, "My Yanyan, you are my Yanyan." Dong, dong. The sound of the night watchman startled me awake. I opened my eyes to find myself lying in bed. It was just a dream. It had already turned dark outside. I turned over, feeling a dull ache in my chest. I wondered if the scenes in my dream were just illusions, or if they had truly happened. "Brother Lin, what has become of you? That elegant, noble crown prince from my memories. How did you become like this?" The next morning, I went to the study to find my eldest brother. Pei Yanyan had just returned from court and was handling official business. He looked up and saw me standing outside the window, staring at him expectantly. My eyes were filled with confusion. Not knowing what I was thinking, he gave a light chuckle, set down his brush. "Yanyan, is something the matter? Brother, my luggage is all packed. Can I ask you a question? You must tell me the truth." Pei Yanyan raised his eyebrows, his smile filled with a touch of doting. "Very well, if I know the answer, I will certainly tell you." I immediately walked into the study, pulled up a chair, and sat solemnly across from Pei Yanyan. "Big brother, why does everyone call Brother Lin the Mad Emperor? Is he really mad? And why? How did he ascend the throne? After I died 5 years ago. Did he do anything? Upon hearing these questions, Pei Jingzhou's expression shifted slightly. He hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Didn't you say it was just one question? You've asked so many at once. Which one should I answer first? Answer them one by one, Pei Jingzhou replied helplessly. Actually, I guessed you would eventually ask these things. Over these 5 years, the person who has changed the most in the capital is Xie Lin. As long as you live in the Great Shun dynasty, it is impossible not to care about him. He still remembers that when you were a child, you often followed Crown Prince Xie Lin around like a little shadow. And the Crown Prince was very fond of you as well, always granting your every request. In those years, everyone, including mom and dad, thought that the Crown Prince treated you with the care of a brother, out of sibling affection. It lasted until the year I died. The first person to discover it was Xie Lin. Pei Jingzhou did not know what the situation was like back then. He only remembered that all the imperial physicians were gathered at the East Palace. The usually gentle and refined crown prince held a sword to the throats of those physicians, forcing them to heal me. The physician checked my pulse and found that I had already stopped breathing. How can someone who is already dead be healed? After hearing the word dead from the physician's mouth, Xie Lin acted as if he had lost his mind. He drove everyone out of the East Palace, staying alone while holding Yanyan's body, refusing to listen to anything, refusing to look at anything. When the PA family heard the news and rushed over, they couldn't even get through the doors. Pei Hong and mother almost cried themselves blind outside the gate, but the person inside simply turned a deaf ear. Xie Lin kept Yanyan held tightly in his arms the entire time. Only when the shadow guards came to report news about the killer would he take up his sword and leave with a murderous aura. The first person to die by Xie Lin's sword was the third prince. He had always coveted the position of crown prince, because Yanyan and Xie Lin were close. The third prince had targeted Yanyan several times. Naturally, he was the most likely culprit, so Xie Lin broke directly into his palace and killed him. The palace maids and eunuchs present were so terrified by the godlike prince that from that day on, everyone said the crown prince had gone mad. Utterly insane. Xie Lin returned to the East Palace and carried Yanyan's body to the ice cellar. The second to be killed was the general's youngest son. After Yanyan died, he had bragged boastfully at a tavern, claiming it was he who was overcome by lust and killed Yanyan, and Xie Lin did what was expected. Following that, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Every possible suspect was killed by Xie Lin, one by one. The memorials requesting a change in the crown prince grew in number, piling up like a mountain in the imperial study. The late emperor was about to approve them, so that very night, Xie Lin led his troops into the palace. He held his sword to the late emperor's throat and personally sent him to the Taiji Hall to live out his retirement. Then he took the throne himself. With the new emperor crowned, his first task was to investigate the case, determined to capture the murderer who killed me. Everyone in the court lived in fear, as if just saying one relevant word meant that by the next morning, that person's head would be hanging above the grand hall. Pei Jingzhou recalled the situation at the time and continued, he really was not right in the head. He kept your remains locked away by his side, and no one's advice mattered. During that time, the eunuchs and maids in the palace whispered privately that there was a foul odor coming from the emperor. He slept with Yanyan's corpse every day. How could there not be a smell, even if kept in an ice cellar? How long could it really last later? We consulted with our parents and quietly drew him away while he was at morning court. We snuck into the ice cellar. That ice cellar was very strange. It looked like a... Pei Jingzhou paused for a moment, his brow furrowed, as if recalling some horrific scene. Like what? Like a wedding chamber, Pei Jingzhou exclaimed inwardly. The day they broke into the ice room is something none of them could ever forget. The interior was draped in endless red silk. Red candles stood on the altar along with fruit and pastries. It was exactly like a wedding chamber where the ceremony had just taken place, and Yanyan dressed in red and lying on the ice bed was the bride. The sight was truly too insane and horrifying. He dared not say it aloud, fearing he might frighten me. So he skipped that question. He continued his story from the time of your death until that day. When we finally recovered your remains, we immediately transported you out and sent you to the ancestral tomb so you could be laid to rest. When Xie Lin found out, he truly lost his mind, he said. If we weren't your relatives, he would have even executed us. He even wanted to dig up your grave, to take you away again. It was only because Mother begged him bitterly that he finally gave up, having finished recounting all that had happened 5 years ago. Pei Jingzhou let out a long sigh. Still shaken, he said, Yanyan, I know you and the Emperor were very close, and that you always looked at him as a brother. But it wasn't that we didn't want you to see each other. It's just that after witnessing how insane he became, we truly didn't feel at ease. As I listened to all the things I had missed, my heart was filled with terror. It turns out that what I had seen was merely the tip of the iceberg. The spring banquet. From early morning, the Pei household was busy inside and out, wearing a veil over my hat. I directed the servants to load the luggage onto the carriage, to be sent out of the city ahead of us. Sun Shi and I would first need to arrive at the spring banquet, and wait until the feast concluded, to slip away from the capital among the other guests. Is everything ready? Yuang placed the final bundle onto the carriage, and double-checked everything carefully. Everything is ready, she replied, then added, it is just that while packing yesterday, one of your dresses went missing, so it wasn't packed. You were very fond of that dress, and Yuang had searched for it for a long time. I lifted a corner of my veil and asked, what clothes? That goose yellow gown you had, miss. It is strange, I looked everywhere and couldn't find it. I clearly saw it just 2 days ago. Yuang said, sounding puzzled upon hearing this. Xie Lin's image surfaced in my mind once more. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly lowered my veil, hiding my cheeks as they began to flush. I spoke quickly, that dress. I accidentally tore it, so I threw it away. Yuang looked skeptical. The young mistress had always cherished her belongings. She didn't know when it had been torn, but since it was just a dress, she didn't dwell on it. She smiled and said, the fabrics in Suzhou are excellent. Once we arrive there, miss can have new ones made. I gave a muffled sound of agreement. I saw my eldest and second brothers walking out. The two were attending the banquet today, so they had dressed with care, looking even more dashing. One elegant, one imposing, they looked quite striking. It was just that their expressions were quite solemn now. Only when their eyes met mine would they offer me a gentle smile. Yanyan, we are heading out now. After the carriage with the luggage departed, Pi Hong and Madame Sun also walked out. They pulled me into another carriage. Along the way, they kept cautioning me. At today's spring banquet, all the civil and military officials and young ladies will be there. The emperor will also attend in person. However, the garden where the banquet is held is quite large, and there will be many people, so barring any accidents, you shouldn't run into the emperor. Even if you do, as long as you don't take off your veil or speak to him, he won't recognize you. In everyone's eyes, I have been dead for 5 years. Such a thing as returning from the dead is something no one would believe. Once we reach the banquet, try to stay in a corner. When the time is right, Mother will take you away quietly. We will leave the capital with the Princess Jin's retinue. I have some acquaintance with the Princess of Jin. She has already agreed to help. I nodded in agreement one by one. Finally, Pei Hong took my hand and consoled me. Yanyan, do not be afraid. We are here for you. I shook my head. Father, Yanyan is not afraid. If I can put my family at ease and ensure the PA family is unharmed, I am willing to go to Suzhou. As we spoke, the carriage stopped outside the garden. This was a banquet hosted by the Emperor of Great Shun. The guests were naturally all dignitaries and nobles. There were so many people that I fear if one were to throw a stone, it could hit several officials of the 3rd rank or higher. The current emperor has yet to appoint a consort, and the imperial harem remains empty. Thus, many eligible women attending the banquet were dressed to the nines, each showing off their best with no shortage of extravagant attire. Because of this, the sight of me wearing a veiled hat actually seemed quite ordinary when others saw me. They merely assumed I was being pretentious, hoping to catch the emperor's eye. Once we entered the banquet, Pei Hong and Lady Sun exchanged pleasantries with other guests, while Pei Jingzhou very discreetly led me to sit in a less crowded spot. Yanyan, wait here. Once the banquet is halfway through, Mother will come and lead you out through the back door. According to their plan, Pei Hong and Pei Wufeng needed to stay in the front courtyard, keeping a close eye on the emperor's movements. Pei Jingzhou was responsible for my safety during this time, to ensure nothing went wrong. I nodded, looking at Pei Jingzhou through my veil. Big brother, I have troubled you all. If it weren't for me, the Pei family wouldn't need to go to such lengths, nor would you need to risk the charge of deceiving the throne. Pei Jingzhou smiled brightly, placing his hand gently on my head and said softly, these 5 years, we don't even know how we got through them. I am the one who should thank you. Thank you for returning. Thank you for coming back to be with us again. Deeply moved, I rubbed my head gently against his hand. While we were talking, some officials I recognized walked in. After exchanging greetings, Pei Yanyan had to step forward to chat. Keeping a moderate distance from me, I sat quietly in the corner, surveying the surroundings. This garden is truly massive. It's practically as large as a miniature imperial palace. There are several courtyards and gardens alone, with so many guests scattered throughout the grounds. It actually feels quite empty when you look around. However, this place was specifically chosen by Pei Yanyan, primarily to avoid drawing any unnecessary attention. It would be best if nobody noticed my existence at all. I just need to pass these 2 hours quietly. I silently counted down the time until I could leave. Suddenly, a burst of giggles erupted from outside. Several women in vibrant dresses walked into the courtyard, chatting and laughing. They scanned the area, and upon spotting Pei Yanyan, their eyes lit up, and they prepared to head in his direction. But then they noticed me sitting in the corner. It's her. I heard about it too. I heard she was wearing a veil at the time. It must be her. Lin Yantong is in such a miserable state now. How dare she come to the spring banquet? The women whispered. They marched right up to where I was sitting. They loomed over me, looking at me with undisguised hostility. Are you the one who fought over that dress with Lin Yantong? I looked at the trio in confusion. It was obvious at a glance that they must be friends of Lin Yantong, here to stand up for her. However, who exactly was stealing from whom? Don't you have that backwards? I said calmly, if Lin Yantong is unhappy about it, have her come and find me herself. How can you be so shameless? The Lin family is under investigation by the Court of Judicial Review, and Minister Lin is in prison. Lin Yantong hasn't just had her engagement broken. She doesn't even have the right to attend the spring banquet anymore. How is she supposed to find you? This matter. I had actually heard my eldest brother mention it. After the conflict I had with Lin Yantong that day, my father and brothers were furious. They wanted to make things difficult for the Lin family. To their surprise, upon investigating, they uncovered the fact that Minister Lin was corrupt. They reported it to the Court of Judicial Review immediately. The officials there were quite efficient. They managed to arrest him in just 2 days. Faced with the accusations of the three, I remained expressionless. And what does that have to do with me? If her father hadn't been corrupt, she would be fine. Did I force her father to commit those crimes? The three of them became furious. If you hadn't snatched Lin Yantong's clothing and used your relationship with General Pei to do it, how could the Lin family have fallen to such a state? I raised my eyebrows high as I listened. What relationship? The young woman sneered, looking at me with a gaze full of disdain. Don't think we don't know. Plenty of people saw it that day. You and General Pei were pulling at each other. It was most improper. Who knows what devious methods you used to trick the general into helping you? I never expected that my interactions with my second brother would be twisted like this. Don't think that just because you have General Pei's backing, we would be afraid of you. Lin Yantong likes General Pei. So she was afraid of upsetting him and didn't dare do anything to you. We, however, are not. The three of them said, acting all high and mighty. I nodded thoughtfully. I saw it now. These three women before me didn't actually like my second brother, but from the moment they walked in, their eyes kept darting toward my eldest brother not far away. Every time they looked, they would put on a shy, maiden-like expression. They don't like my second brother. They like my eldest brother, don't they? Thinking of this, I smiled and said, you're mistaken. I don't just have General Pei's backing. Even Junior Minister Pei obeys my every word. Upon hearing this, the expressions of all three changed instantly. Impossible. Junior Minister Pei is wise and decisive, able to distinguish right from wrong. It is impossible for you to trick him. Since I passed away 5 years ago, Pei Yanyan joined the government. Though refined and gentle, he has always been very distant with everyone. His polite demeanor carries an underlying chill. No one has ever heard of him being special to anyone. Instead, I raised my voice slightly and called out to the person in the distance. Pei Yanyan, I want some water. Pei Yanyan, who was busy talking to his colleagues, heard this and immediately excused himself. He picked up a teapot, walked over with a smile, poured a cup and handed it to me. My fingertips brushed against it and I felt the warmth of the cup. It was hot. It is a bit chilly today. Drinking cold tea isn't good for your health. I said nothing, took a sip, and then continued. I'm hungry. All right, Pei Yanyan nodded with a good-natured smile and brought over 2 plates of snacks from nearby, placing them before me. See if these are to your liking, if you want anything else. I can go check the front courtyard. I picked up a piece of pastry to taste it. I was reasonably satisfied. It tasted quite good. Upon hearing this, Pei Jingzhou smiled. It seemed that as long as she was happy, he was content. The three noble young ladies stared at this scene in shock, their faces full of disbelief. When had they ever seen Pei Jingzhou serve someone like this, and so willingly, appearing perfectly content to do so? Could it be that this woman had not only bewitched Pei Wufeng, but had even bewitched Pei Jingzhou as well? Who on earth is she? Her name, her background, even her appearance remained a complete mystery to them. Sir Pei Jingzhou's attention was entirely on his sister. Only when someone spoke up to address him did he finally notice the three people standing there. His expression instantly turned guarded. "What are you doing here?" Yanyan's identity was delicate. At this critical time, she could not be discovered. I explained, "They are friends of Lin Yantong." Just by saying that much, Pei Jingzhou understood immediately. His gaze turned cold in an instant. He tilted his body slightly, shielding me behind him. "If you don't want to die, get out." The icy voice was in sharp contrast to the gentleness he showed me just a moment ago. The three of them turned deathly pale in an instant. One of them gritted her teeth, unresigned, and asked, "Sir Pei, you are so gentle and considerate toward her. Why must you be so cold to us?" Pei Jingzhou sneered. "Are you even fit to be compared to her? Leave." The last trace of hope on their faces shattered instantly. They turned and ran away, crying. Pei Jingzhou frowned and said, displeased, "I didn't expect anyone to come even after hiding here. It seems we need to find another place." He whisked me away at once to a more secluded courtyard. He finally felt at ease only when not a soul could be seen nearby. "No one should come to this area. Stay here and wait for a while. I'm going to the front courtyard to see how things are. If the timing is right, I will have Mother take you away early." I was currently inside a rockery, unless someone walked in personally to look around. Otherwise, no one will be able to find me. Feeling safe enough after my brother left, I sat in the rockery resting, bored out of my mind. Time felt like it was dragging on forever. I used to love attending all sorts of banquets. I could taste so many delicacies and play games. If it weren't for my special circumstances now, I should be out enjoying this lively spring banquet. Instead of hiding away here, I'm forced to hide away here, unable to move even an inch. The mere thought of it makes me long for Suzhou even more. Once I arrive in Suzhou, I won't have to be so cautious. I can do as I please. I stood up, feeling rather restless, when suddenly I heard footsteps outside. Terrified, I didn't dare move a muscle. I hoped the person would leave as soon as possible, but to my surprise, the people outside didn't leave. Instead, they came right up to the rockery. Perhaps they thought it was a good spot for a secret meeting, for they actually started whispering to each other. It was the voices of a man and a woman. "Are all the arrangements set? Everything is according to your instructions. The poison has been added to the tea in the study. After the banquet is halfway over, the emperor will go to the study to rest. As long as he takes a single sip, it will kill him on the spot." Excellent. That dog of an emperor. He who killed his own kin. This time, I will ensure he never walks out of these gates alive. Young master, wouldn't that be too risky? The mad emperor acts on his own whims. No one can guess what he's thinking. What if he refuses to drink that tea? Do not worry. I have already thought of a backup plan as I hid in the rockery. Hiding in the rockery, I pricked up my ears to listen to their conversation. The more I heard, the more horrified I became. Summono was actually planning to assassinate Xie Lin, and it was to happen today. Xie Lin has been trained in martial arts since childhood. If they had sent assassins to attack him directly, I wouldn't be worried at all, because with Xie Lin's skills, he would never be in danger. But from what they just said, they were actually planning to poison him. That is impossible to defend against. My heart filled with anxiety, and I couldn't help but lean closer to hear more. When someone happened to pass by, the two people outside immediately stopped talking and left in a hurry. I waited in the rockery for a little longer, and only after making sure the people outside had gone far away did I finally come out. With my brow furrowed beneath my veil, I whispered, "Brother." If my brother were by my side, I could have asked him to warn Xie Lin to be careful, but now I have no one with me. I don't even know when Mother will arrive. Those two people just said that once the banquet is halfway through, Xie Lin will go to the study to rest. Calculated by the time, it should be almost time. I paced anxiously in place and waited for another while, but still did not see the shadows of my brother or mother. Gritting my teeth, I walked toward the depths of the courtyard. To make it easier to escape later when I came in, Pei Jingzhou had explained the layout of this garden to me in detail. From where I am standing now, a short distance further in, is the courtyard where the emperor rests. It is very close. Pei Jingzhou, Let me hide here, believing that no one would dare to come into this area. This, in turn, actually facilitated my actions. In the center of the courtyard stands a massive ginkgo tree. It is now early spring, and the branches are just sprouting tender green leaves, full of vitality. There is not a single guard around, which means Xie Lin is still in the front courtyard and has not come over yet. I quickly found the study. There is no one guarding it yet, either. Very good. I only need to go in, pour out that poison tea on the table, and then leave immediately. The whole process can be finished in the blink of an eye. After I'm done, I'll go back to the rockery and wait for Mother to pick me up. Everything will be done without anyone noticing. Having made up my mind, I looked left and right, and after confirming no one was there, I walked quickly into the study. At a glance, I saw the tea set on the table. I opened it and sniffed. Nothing seemed unusual, but my brother had told me that many poisons are colorless and odorless. Holding the teapot, I poured the tea directly out the window. The tea splashed onto the leaves outside, and the once vibrant green leaves instantly turned withered and yellow. It really was poisoned. I was shaken on the spot, fearing there might still be poison residue in the teapot. I simply shoved the whole thing into a corner to hide it. Only after finishing all this did I finally heave a sigh of relief. Clapping my hands, I prepared to leave. A flurry of footsteps suddenly rang out from outside. They were so fast I didn't even have time to react. After glancing around, I had no choice but to quickly hide inside a cabinet in the corner. Almost the exact moment I hid myself, the study door was slammed open. A tall, all too familiar figure strode inside. He was enveloped in a terrifying, surging rage, so intense that even I, hiding in the cabinet, could clearly feel it, and I instantly tensed up. Xie Lin wore a grim expression. A fire of fury surged continuously within his heart, making his eyes appear even darker. His burning resentment laid bare, sharp as a blade. "Where are they?" he snarled. The guards were so terrified they immediately fell to their knees, whispering, Currently, we are still investigating. We have already sent men to apprehend every single person who came into contact with the food during the banquet. Everything else from the banquet has also been cleared away and is being checked for anything unusual." Xie Lin let out a cold, sharp laugh, which only made him seem more frigid to be able to sneak into a banquet held by the emperor and pull such a stunt right under my nose. This person is no ordinary servant or maid. They must be among the guests. Drag them out. I want them dead. His lowered voice sounded somewhat raspy, with his fury erupting at the tail end of his words. "Yes, Your Majesty," the guards acknowledged immediately, then asked worriedly, "How is Your Majesty's health? Should we summon the imperial physicians or—" He stopped halfway, having been interrupted by the sudden crisis. The emperor had been at the banquet when he suddenly noticed something wrong with his wine and put down his cup immediately. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The poison had entered his body. Under normal circumstances, they would have called for an imperial physician right away, but the poison the emperor had been afflicted with was quite specific. Even if they didn't call a physician, bringing in a woman could also neutralize the toxin. The physicians were at the palace, too far away. On the other hand, there were plenty of women at the banquet offering themselves up, which was clearly more convenient, Xie Lin said, his voice raspy. "Without question, go call the imperial physician." "Yes." The guard immediately dismissed all other thoughts. He stood up and left at once, rushing toward the palace with the greatest speed. He even arranged for a few men to guard the door, in case anyone should be so blind as to blunder in. Soon, Xie Lin was left alone in the study. He felt that under the influence of the aphrodisiac, a fire was burning and raging within his body, leaving his body taut and his skin searing hot. Even the air he exhaled felt scorched. Yet the more this fire burned, the more his fury boiled. In the 5 years since his coronation, Xie Lin knew he had made many enemies, but he had never once held them in any regard. If one came, he killed one. If two came, he killed the pair. He did not fear the depths of hell, for he already lived in it, but he never imagined that those people would actually use an aphrodisiac on him. It was nothing short of a death wish. Xie Lin gritted his teeth, longing to capture those people and have them sliced to death piece by piece. He would make them suffer the most agonizing death in the world. The effect of the drug in his body continued to mount, and it was clear there was no other cure but that even if he were to endure it by force, he would eventually explode from it. They were not trying to kill him. They were trying to disgust him. If he were to actually touch another woman to save his own life, then he would not need anyone else to act. He would kill himself first. Xie Lin's throat was parched, and his gaze swept over the table, only to discover that no tea had been prepared there at all. His expression turned even gloomier. He wondered how the people here managed things. He had no choice but to take a deep breath, while silently repeating that person's name in his heart, trying to use it to calm the boiling heat within his body. Yanyan, Yanyan, my Yanyan. I was hiding in the cabinet in the corner, feeling quite helpless. Ever since I returned from the dead, how is it that every time I meet Xie Lin, I find myself hiding in a cabinet? Listening to the conversation between Xie Lin and his guard, it seems he was poisoned and sent someone to the palace for a physician. Could this be the two-pronged plan mentioned by those two outside the rockery? I felt a bit anxious, thinking for the first time that Xie Lin was a bit reckless. I even helped him pour out the poison tea. So why is he still poisoned? Didn't brother say Xie Lin was very formidable? He said that ever since he became emperor, everyone who tried to assassinate him failed. He could even strike first to gain the advantage. How did they manage to succeed this time? I carefully observed Xie Lin's situation outside. I don't know what kind of poison he has or how serious it is. If he just keeps sitting there and doesn't leave, I won't be able to get out. What if mother comes and can't find me? I waited anxiously. Finally, Xie Lin moved. Yanyan. Xie Lin suddenly whispered my name. I almost thought I'd been discovered and my heart skipped a beat. I looked out carefully, only to see that Xie Lin, who had been sitting with his eyes closed and holding his breath, seemed to have reached his limit. His eyes were bloodshot after calling my name. His right hand slowly reached into his chest pocket, pulling out a goose-yellow camisole that I knew all too well. My eyes widened and my face instantly flushed with heat. You bad man, you lecher. He has actually been carrying my camisole with him this whole time. If you're poisoned, just stay put and wait for the imperial physician to treat you. What are you trying to do with my things again? I was burning all over. I glared at him angrily, but the next moment, I realized exactly what kind of poison Xie Lin had been struck with. In a trance, I felt as if I had returned to my bedroom a few days ago. It was in this same kind of cabinet, with those same kinds of movements. Even the glimpses of the goose-yellow camisole were identical. My face was burning red, and I cursed him in my heart with every word I could think of. I didn't even dare to look, but even with my eyes closed, his low, ragged breathing kept echoing in my ears. Even when I covered my ears, the image of Xie Lin's movements kept playing in my mind. His long, slender fingers, his dark, intense gaze, and his half-revealed chest. They kept drilling into my head. I regret it so much now. Xie Lin is such a bad person. I shouldn't have come to help him. I should have just let him drink that poison tea, and none of this would have happened. It wasn't until the sounds outside gradually quieted down that I finally dared to open my eyes and look out. Xie Lin leaned back against the chair, his head tilted back, eyes slightly closed. His lean, knuckly right hand was gripping that pale yellow undershirt, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. Every detail was visible. I took one look at his hand, and my face instantly burned with heat. I wondered if, after Xie Lin went back last time, he had washed away the filth on it. Did he wash it himself? My mind couldn't help but conjure an image of Xie Lin using those hands to wash the garment himself. My thoughts paused for a moment, and then I cursed him from head to toe in my mind all over again. However, this time, Xie Lin outside, since stopping his movements just now, had not moved at all. It was as if he had passed out. I was hesitating whether or not to come out, when suddenly a hushed voice drifted in from outside. Daybreak, daybreak, it was Mother's voice. It was the secret signal we had agreed upon. Mother must have come to pick me up, but she couldn't find me and followed the trail all the way here. Oh no. I nervously glanced in Xie Lin's direction. He didn't seem to be reacting at all. It seemed he really had fainted. I couldn't wait any longer. I tested the situation carefully, opening the door, and stepped out from the cupboard, treading softly the whole time, not even daring to take a full breath. I was terrified that Xie Lin would suddenly wake up. When I reached Xie Lin's side, I looked with a flushed face at the undershirt clutched in his hand. If I let this garment stay in his hands, who knows what he might do with it? I reached out to take it back, but worried I might wake Xie Lin up. After hesitating repeatedly, I gave up. Instead, I continued tiptoeing toward the edge of the window. There were guards posted at the door, so I could only climb out through the window. Judging by the sound, Mother should be nearby already. I love playing kickball. Climbing out a window is a piece of cake for me. I braced my hands on the windowsill and prepared to leap, when Sun's hushed calling voice reached me from outside once more. Yanyan, Yanyan, where are you? It seemed that because she couldn't find me and received no response, she called my name directly. As her voice reached the study, Xie Lin, who had been battling the lust-inducing drug and had already lost consciousness, suddenly opened his eyes. His bloodshot eyes were filled with confusion. His sanity did not seem to have fully returned. He merely repeated that name, guided by muscle memory. Yanyan, a low voice called out from behind me. Frightened, I immediately hurried my attempt to climb out the window. I pushed myself up, jumped, and vaulted over. With one fluid motion, my feet landed on the ground. A flash of joy went through me. Just as I prepared to leave, a hand suddenly reached out, grabbing my arm tightly. Yanyan. My heart skipped a beat in terror. Before I could even let out a cry, I was dragged back into the study. Bang, the window slammed shut again. The veil I had been wearing on my head fell off. I found myself staring into eyes that were nearly crazed. My heart was in a panic. I couldn't understand why Xie Lin had suddenly woken up, nor how he had managed to recognize me. I quickly lowered my head to avoid his gaze, and began to struggle at the same time. I wanted to deny everything, but before I could speak, a flurry of kisses landed on my forehead, my eyes, my cheeks, and my lips. The kisses were fast and intense, carrying a breathless passion and longing. I was kissed so soundly that I couldn't say a word. No. It is not me, you've mistaken me for someone else. But he seemed completely unable to hear me. He just kept holding me and whispering my name over and over again. Yanyan, Yanyan, I have missed you so. Every word resonated with the voice of Xie Lin calling me in my dreams. When I died 5 years ago, did he call for me just like this? I froze, seeming to sense that I had stopped struggling. Xie Lin's movements gradually slowed down, but his arms were still clutching me so tightly, as if he were afraid that if he let go, I would disappear. He buried his head into the crook of my neck, taking a deep breath, feeling my body heat and my scent. With a hint of grievance in his tone, he said, "You're finally willing to come find me. It has been so long since I last dreamt of you. I've missed you so much." I paused, stunned. Xie Lin thought he was dreaming. I looked down to study him closely and found Xie Lin's gaze unfocused and vacant. His eyes weren't tracking, and his forehead and body were scorching hot. Clearly, he had been dazed by the effects of the love poison. I exhaled a long sigh of relief. Thank goodness. There was still a chance to save him. Since Xie Lin thought this was all a dream, I decided to go along with it. I raised my hand and placed it gently on Xie Lin's back, trying to pat him soothingly. "Brother Lin, I've missed you too." Just that one sentence. And the man slumped against my shoulder instantly quieted down. A moment later, I felt a damp patch on my shoulder. My heart trembled slightly. My movements grew softer as I gently patted his back. Xie Lin remained completely silent, his tears silently staining my shoulder. What I didn't know was that over these 5 years, Xie Lin had been in agony, madly obsessed, like one possessed. Yet for some reason, he hadn't shed a single tear. It turns out that when sorrow reaches its peak, there are no tears left to fall. The study was silent after a long while, sensing that his emotions had stabilized. I spoke up. "Brother Lin, I am already dead. To see you in a dream is enough to satisfy my heart. All good things must come to an end now. I must go." I didn't dare stay too long, for fear that Xie Lin would notice something amiss, and also fearing that my mother, who was searching for me, would arrive. Gently breaking free from Xie Lin's grip, I was about to step back. No. His arms wrapped around my waist again, and with immense strength he lifted me right off the ground. I tried to persuade him again. "Brother Lin, the living and the dead follow different paths." Before I could finish, a kiss landed on my... Unlike the feather-light pecks from before, this one was scalding, filled with obsession, recklessly crashing into me. "Fine," I gasped. It was scorching hot. His palms were hot. Every part of him was hot. Even I couldn't help but follow along at that moment. I finally realized what was happening. Xie Lin was still burning up. I tried to struggle, but my mouth was covered. "Don't move, Yanyan. I'm so hot, I don't want to let you go." I felt like I was being scorched. Outside, the daylight was bright. A gentle breeze swayed the treetops, and dappled shadows swept across the window, flickering again and again. Fragmented spots of light filtering through the branches fell onto the back of my hand, which was resting on the windowsill. It was brilliant gold. I only had time for a single glance before my hand was caught by another, intertwining fingers with me in an intimate embrace. I looked up at the daylight streaming in from outside, my mind feeling entirely blank. Exhausted, I gasped for air in small, shallow breaths. The person behind me still held me tight, my heart pounding like a drum, fearing that he would not let me go. "Brother Lin," I said, my weak hands giving a gentle push. To my surprise, the man who had been holding me so firmly just moments ago simply collapsed to the floor. I was startled and reached out to check his breathing. He wasn't dead. I let out a sudden sigh of relief. Without a moment to dwell on it, I quickly smoothed my clothes and opened the window again. My limbs were weak and limp as I climbed out. This time, I didn't encounter any obstacles. I ran out with ease, then ducked my head and hurried in the direction of my mother's voice. Arriving at the courtyard gate, I saw Madame Sun looking around for me in a panic. "Mother," I called out. I hurried over upon seeing me. Madame Sun let out a sigh of relief. "Why did you take off your veil?" she exclaimed in alarm. "Many people at the Spring Banquet recognize me. If they see your face, they will certainly know who you are." I quickly put the veil hat I was holding back on. How could I tell her that the hat had been taken off by Xie Lin just a moment ago? Madame Sun looked at my face, puzzled, and asked again, "Yanyan, where did you go just now? Why is your face so red?" "Nothing happened, did it?" Mother has been looking for you for a long time. I thought you had been discovered. I kept my head down, grateful that I was wearing my veil. My mother couldn't see my flustered expression or my flushed face. Otherwise, I'll definitely give myself away. I was just bored, so I wandered over to take a look. Lady Sun took my hand and said gently, I know you like excitement, so staying there must have been quite dull for you. Once we reach Suzhou, Yanyan will be able to do whatever she likes. You can host banquets every day if you want. Good, good. I nodded repeatedly though my mind was elsewhere, and urged her, Mother, did you come to take me to leave? Let's go quickly. The Princess of Jin isn't feeling well and wishes to leave early. We should head out with her. She held my hand and led me out of the garden. The Princess of Jin's carriage procession was already waiting outside. Lady Sun helped me into the carriage first, then chatted with the princess for a moment. It was so sudden. I never expected my elder to fall ill so abruptly. That woman is a female doctor I went to great lengths to find. I hope she can be of help. I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you, Princess. Lady Sun had told the princess that her father back in Suzhou had fallen gravely ill, and the local doctors were helpless, so she had brought a female doctor from the capital to return home for treatment. The fake identity I was using was that of the female doctor. The Princess of Jin said softly, Given our relationship, why be so formal? We're just going the same way after all. If I can be of any help, I am more than happy to do so. Thank you, Your Highness. Lady Sun thanked her sincerely. Only those in on the plan knew how crucial this journey was. Soon, everyone had assembled. The carriage procession departed, moving slowly toward the city gates. Lady Sun squeezed my hand tightly. Yanyan, the journey is long and difficult. Just bear with it for a few days. Once we reach Suzhou, you will be free as a bird and will no longer have to worry about anything. At the Spring Banquet, amidst the lively festivities, Pei Hong, Pei Jingzhou, and Master Pei Wufeng were gathered together. They had been keeping a close watch on Xie Lin's every move to prevent him from running into me. Xie Lin had only made a brief appearance at the Spring Banquet earlier and left in a hurry before even finishing a single cup of wine. Just like at every other banquet, the emperor didn't stay long, but watching him leave, the finely dressed women looked heartbroken and disappointed. However, the three PI men felt a sense of relief. They had been walking on eggshells all day. Now they could finally rest easy. Pei Jingzhou looked up at the horizon at this hour. Mother and Yanyan must have already set off, right? I asked the maid by the Princess Jin's side. The princess was feeling unwell, so she left early. By now, they should be nearly out of the city gates. Princess Jin's carriage procession can leave the city directly. Even the city guards won't dare to inspect them. As long as they are hidden within the procession, they will be able to leave the capital safely. That is the very reason they chose Princess Jin in the first place. Pei Wufeng frowned and sighed. After today, I don't know when I'll be able to see Yanyan again. We waited 5 years. Now that we've finally seen her, it's only been 2 days and we have to part again. Everything is for Yanyan's safety. If she remains in the capital, she will be viewed as an outsider if the emperor finds out. In his current state of madness, there is nothing he wouldn't do. Don't worry, once we have handled matters in the capital, we will find a way to get transferred to Suzhou. We will be able to see each other again then. We've waited 5 years, a few days is nothing. Pei Wufeng nodded at these words. Everyone in the PA family shared the same sentiment, and that is to ensure Pei Yanyan lives a happy and blissful life. That is enough. Pei Hong's face also softened into a smile as he said, All right, let's stay a little longer, and find an excuse to leave since the main person has departed. There is no need for us to stay here any longer. Meanwhile, on the other side of the garden, unlike the lively atmosphere of the spring banquet ahead, the area reserved for the emperor felt heavy and somber. The guards rushed to summon the imperial physician. Upon pushing the door open, they saw the emperor already collapsed on the floor, unconscious. The physician, having been informed of the situation by the guards on the way, lashed out in anger. How could you leave the emperor all by himself? Though the poison the emperor has consumed is not lethal, if it is not resolved in time, his life could still be in danger. You should have sought out a woman immediately. The guard explained the emperor only ordered us to bring the physician. Besides, the emperor has someone in his heart. I doubt any other woman could get near him. Xie Lin's personal guards have been with him since his days in the Eastern Palace. They know about his history with me. What time do you think this is? Forget about that for a moment. Is his sweetheart more important? Or is his life more important? Looking at the emperor's current state, surely, the imperial physician cursed, reaching for his pulse point. His voice trailed off abruptly, his expression turning puzzled. The emperor's health doesn't seem as dire as I had imagined. The poison in his body has been suppressed, and even mostly cleared. There is no longer a threat to his life. A guard was startled and hurriedly asked, The poison in the emperor is already cleared. That is strange. He had asked the guards at the door when he first arrived, and no one had entered. The physician shook his head. It's not entirely cleared, but his body has stabilized enough for him to recover. He won't succumb to the effects of the poison. Hearing this, the experienced guards understood. Once I administer the acupuncture treatment, and he takes a dose of medicine, the emperor will be fine. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The physician the guards brought was one of the best in the realm. Back when I was harmed, he was personally recruited into the palace by the emperor. He had remained in his service ever since. He was a master of his craft, skilled with silver needles with a few quick pricks. The emperor slowly awoke, Yanyan. At the very moment he opened his eyes, he suddenly reached out, as if trying to grasp at someone in the empty air. But he grabbed at nothing. There was nothing there. Xie Lin's gaze cleared in an instant. He first looked at his right hand. It was empty. There was nothing. Yet the sensation of holding me seemed to linger, so real, so vivid. He frowned tightly. The antidote and his return to consciousness brought him no joy. Instead, his expression grew even darker. Because as soon as I woke up, I had vanished. It had been a very, very long time since he last dreamt of me. Even the chance to see me in a dream was so rare. Thinking of this, Xie Lin almost wished the poison had never been cleared. Murderous intent surged instantly. He reached out and grabbed the physician by the throat. "Who told you to cure me?" The imperial physician was stunned. Struggling to say, "Was it not your majesty who ordered the guards to fetch me?" Xie Lin said nothing. It was, of course, at his command. But he regretted it now. If he had known that being poisoned meant he could meet me in his dreams, he would have preferred to be poisoned several more times. Imperial physician Shu had done his utmost to save him, only to be choked for his trouble. Xie Lin was in the wrong, yet he felt no remorse. If he were a reasonable man, he wouldn't be called the Mad Emperor. He simply loosened his grip on the man's throat, so as not to let him die too quickly. "You saved me." How did he save him? Given his understanding of this love poison, common medicine would hardly neutralize it so quickly. If this man dared to have secretly sent a woman in, he would kill this quack without hesitation. Imperial physician Shu hurriedly explained, "When I arrived, the poison in your majesty's body had already been largely neutralized. I used silver needles and medicinal pills for treatment, only then removing the residual poison." Largely neutralized. Xie Lin turned his gaze toward the guards. "Your majesty, your subordinate has kept men stationed at the study door the whole time. No one entered during that period." Hearing this, Xie Lin's gaze darkened, and he commanded coldly, "Search the study thoroughly. Leave no stone unturned." "Yes, sir." Several guards filed in, beginning to search every corner of the study for anything suspicious. Imperial physician Shu, now free, rubbed his neck, his gaze sweeping around the room as well. Then it landed on a pale yellow undergarment in the corner of the bed. Judging by its color and style, it was clearly meant for a woman. "Your Majesty, this item seems quite suspicious." He pointed to it. Before he could finish his sentence, he received a fierce glare from Xie Lin. The look in those eyes was as if he wanted to kill him. Terrified, the physician promptly shut his mouth. Xie Lin reached out and picked up the undergarment, then tucked it into his robes without changing his expression. He then stated coldly, "Look at it again, and I'll have your eyes gouged out." The physician thought, "You've already hidden it in your robes like a treasure. How am I supposed to look at it?" Soon, a guard walked over holding an empty teapot. "Your Majesty, this was found in the corner. Based on the residue left behind, this teapot must have contained poison. It was simply poured out. The poison tea is outside the window. Furthermore, there are traces on the window indicating someone climbed through it. It appears to have been left by someone who doesn't know martial arts." Physician Shu took the teapot and examined it carefully, his expression grave as he said, "This is a genuine lethal poison. A single drop is enough to kill instantly." Xie Lin's gaze darkened further. He still remembered the moment the aphrodisiac took effect. When he felt his body burning with heat, he had wanted to drink tea to suppress it but hadn't seen a cup on the table. He was puzzled at the time, but he never imagined this was the reason under those circumstances. If the pot had still been there, he surely would have drank the poison tea and died on the spot. He walked to the window. The tree branches outside, having been stained by the poison tea, had already begun to rot and wither. The clear marks left on the windowsill made it easy to imagine the clumsy way the intruder had climbed through. Someone with no martial arts skill, breaking into his study, pouring out the poison, and the aphrodisiac in his body inexplicably wearing off. "When you were guarding outside, did you hear any disturbance?" "At the time, Your Majesty, you kept calling out Miss Pei's name and said some things, but it wasn't very clear." Usually, Xie Lin would call out for Miss Pessy in his sleep, so they were already accustomed to it, and therefore did not come in to check. Xie Lin knew what he had said at the time. Every word burned into his mind. He recalled that beautiful dream once more. Was that really just a dream? Xie Lin clenched his fists and ordered, seal the entire city. Don't let a single fly escape. At that moment, the Princess Jin's carriage procession had already reached the city gate. Princess Jin was no ordinary person, and held special privileges even within the capital. Entering or leaving the city, she only had to show her tablet, and the entire procession required no inspection, being allowed to pass through immediately. Carriage after carriage rolled outward. As I watched the city gate draw closer and closer, I felt 1,000 emotions. Just a few more steps, and I would be leaving the capital where I had lived for over 10 years. From now on, the safety of my father and 2 brothers would be hanging by a thread. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Sun thought I was worried about my identity being exposed and comforted me. Yanyan, don't worry. It will be fine as long as they don't search the carriages. They won't discover us. Her words had barely faded when, with a creak, the carriage suddenly stopped. Mrs. Sun lifted the curtain and saw several men dressed as imperial guards walking toward the city gate. Speaking with the guards on duty, a wave of foreboding suddenly washed over her. They saw the men converse for a moment, then immediately bring over several wooden barriers, blocking the entire city gate. At this very moment, most of the Princess Jin's carriage procession had already exited the capital, leaving only 2 carriages behind inside. And unfortunately, Mrs. Sun and I were sitting in one of them. We had originally chosen to sit near the back. For safety, never expecting such a thing would happen, a guard at the gate raised his voice and said, "By imperial decree, the city gates are sealed as of today. No one is to enter or exit." The surrounding crowd erupted into chaos. The driver of our carriage immediately ran forward to ask, "Officer, I am a driver for Princess Jin's procession. The princess and the other carriages have already passed through. These last 2 carriages are with them. Please, officer, do us a favor and let us pass through as well." His request was reasonable enough. After all, these were Princess Jin's people, and since everyone else had already left, there was no reason to leave them behind. If anyone else had given the order today, the guards might have turned a blind eye, but this was the mad emperor's decree, and the soldiers dared not disobey a single word. "I'm truly sorry, but this is the emperor's order, and we dare not defy it. Is there anyone important in those carriages? One carries cargo, and the other carries a close friend of the princess. I see. Why don't you stay in the city for a few days? I will report this to the princess for you. Once the gates open, you may be on your way." The princess's carriages hadn't traveled far yet. There was still time to catch them. The driver looked troubled. This soldier was truly unyielding, refusing to budge an inch aside from them. Many others in the vicinity had also been blocked at the gate. The area was rowdy and chaotic. "Mother, someone is coming," I whispered. After those guards sealed the city gates, they began questioning everyone one by one. Even the carriages were being opened for inspection. Seeing that the situation was dire, Lady Sun made up her mind and pulled me out of the carriage secretly. "Let's go." No sooner had they left than the officers searched that very carriage, finding it empty. An officer asked, "Didn't you say there were 2 people inside? Where are they?" The carriage driver looked puzzled too. "I don't know, they were just here a moment ago." The news of the city lockdown caused an uproar. Since the founding of Dashun, the city had never been locked down. Even when the mad emperor staged his coup, the gates of the capital remained open. For a time, everyone was panicked, but this was the emperor's order. Who dared to disobey? Taking advantage of the chaos, Lady Sun and I returned to the chancellor's estate via a side path. Father and my brother had not returned yet. When the servants saw us return, they looked puzzled, and Lady Sun appeared worried. "The city gates are sealed. We cannot leave for the time being, Yanyan. It seems you will have to stay in the capital for a while longer. Once the lockdown is lifted, Mother will see you off." Compared to her anxiety, I appeared much calmer. I held her hand tightly to comfort her. "Mother, don't worry, everything will be fine." "I hope so," Lady Sun sighed. She had a feeling the emperor wouldn't lock the gates without cause. Although the emperor was mad, all his madness revolved around one core Yanyan. His only rule was Yanyan. Then, could this city lockdown also have something to do with Yanyan? After returning to my room, I had the servants bring hot water. I refused Yuang's help and closed the door to wash myself alone. Ever since I left the Spring Banquet, I hadn't had a moment to catch my breath. Before Lady Sun dragged me out of the city, I had been sweaty, and as I sat in the tub, I let the hot water wash over me. I looked down to see that the bitten area had turned a bright flushed red. It was burning hot, and my face turned red in an instant. I'm not sure if it is the heat of the water or something else. I have to push all distracting thoughts aside and quickly get dressed in clean clothes. Only then did I finally feel a bit refreshed. By now, it was already dark outside. I went to the front hall and saw Mother still waiting anxiously. Haven't father and brother returned yet? Mother sighed. No, I've already sent someone to ask. I don't know what could have happened, and as I listened, I felt like something was wrong. Xie Lin was poisoned at the Spring Banquet. With a matter this grave, he would certainly seal off the banquet grounds. At first, when father and brother didn't return immediately, I assumed it was because of that, so I wasn't too worried once the culprit was found. They would return soon. But it has already been most of the day, and the three of them still haven't come back. Isn't that taking a bit too long? Mother, when you came to get me, did father and brother say anything else? Mother shook her head. They only told me to take good care of you. No matter what happens, do not return to the capital, and don't worry about them. But in this situation, how could I not worry? I comforted her. Mother, you don't need to worry yet. There are so many people who attended the Spring Banquet. High-ranking officials and imperial relatives are all among them. No matter what, the emperor cannot keep them confined for too long. Otherwise, the court and the entire country would fall into chaos. I hope so, and as we were speaking, the servant I sent to the banquet to ask for news returned in a hurry. Madam, miss, I've returned. And what is the news? When will father and brother be able to return? How is it at the Spring Banquet? Mother asked anxiously. The servant, panting, replied, I heard someone at the banquet tried to harm the emperor. In the afternoon, the emperor ordered the entire garden to be locked down. All guests must cooperate with the investigation. To find the culprit, Mother collapsed onto her chair, shocked. Why did this have to happen at such a time? The city lockdown this afternoon is likely also a result of this incident. She hit the table in anger, muttering that the assassin couldn't have acted earlier or later but had to choose today. If not for this incident, Pei Yanyan would have already successfully left the capital. Pei Hong and his two sons would not be trapped either. What a nuisance, she cursed in her frustration. I said in surprise, he's locked everyone in. Does he truly not care about the imperial court or the empire? How is the court supposed to convene tomorrow? The servant shook his head and said, the garden hosting the Spring Banquet is now under heavy guard. No one can leave, and no one can enter. Madame Sun waved her hand, dismissing the servant. Though she was deeply worried at heart, she still comforted me. Yanyan, you should go back and rest first. Your health is what matters. Ever since I returned from the dead, they had been extra attentive to my well-being, fearing any lingering effects. But I shook my head. I will wait with you, Mother. Father and my brother's fates are still unknown. With you so worried, how could I possibly sleep? The two of us waited uneasily throughout the night. Fortunately, Xie Lin wasn't truly insane. The next morning, the garden that had been sealed for a day began lifting its lockdown. Carriages arrived one after another to take the guests home. Upon hearing the news, Madame Sun and I both breathed a sigh of relief. However, we waited and waited until it was nearly noon, watching as everyone else returned home, one by one. But the PA family carriage was nowhere to be seen. The servant we sent to inquire returned with more news. It seems the emperor has narrowed down the scope of suspects. Most of the guests returned early this morning. What about father and my brothers? I heard, the servant replied. That master and the young masters are suspected of attempting to assassinate the emperor, so they are not allowed to leave. Besides them, Lord Liu next door, as well as Lord Chen and Lord Li have also been detained. Hearing this, Madame Sun felt the world go black, nearly fainting on the spot. I quickly supported her and said anxiously, how could father and my brothers possibly plot such a thing? It's so obvious. How can the emperor not see it? He is truly foolish. At the Spring Banquet earlier today, I heard the conversation between that man and woman with my own ears. They are definitely the real culprits. Instead of investigating the real killers, why is Xie Lin investigating my father and brothers? The servant bowed his head, not daring to speak. The only person in the world who would dare call the mad emperor a fool is likely only her. Lady Sun took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. Don't worry, don't worry. The emperor is wise and discerning. Once he catches the real culprit, he will certainly release them. We all know this has nothing to do with us. I couldn't tell if she was trying to comfort me or comfort herself. I was anxious in my heart. I was worried about whether I should reveal the clues about the culprit, how to say it, and how much to say, so that I wouldn't expose my own identity while still managing to save my father and brother. Another day passed. Pei Hong, Pei Jingzhou, and Pei Wufeng still had not returned. The estate was filled with the emperor's men. Outsiders could not enter. Even though we wanted to know news from inside, we couldn't find out anything at all. Whether the three of them were alive or dead, where they were being held, if they had eaten, or if they had been interrogated, we had no idea. Lady Sun was so worried she hadn't been sleeping. She barely ate, and in just 2 short days, she had lost a whole circle of weight. After much hesitation, I decided to tell her everything I knew. Mother, actually back at the Spring Banquet, I overheard 2 people plotting to kill the emperor. What? I repeated the conversation I heard that day word for word and said I was hiding in the rockery at the time and clearly heard them discussing poisoning the emperor. I think the culprit the emperor is looking for must be them. It is just a pity that I didn't see their faces. I only heard that it was a man and a woman, and they sounded quite young. I only mentioned the conversation between the 2 culprits, omitting what happened later in the study. Lady Sun was terrified after hearing this. No wonder I couldn't find you anywhere at that time. I never expected that something like this would happen. Those villains are absolutely ruthless. It is fortunate they didn't discover you. Otherwise, you would have been in trouble too. I said anxiously, Mother. The culprits were a man and a woman. If we could just let the emperor know about this clue, it could at least prove that father and brother are not the culprits. Lady Sun heard this. However, her brow furrowed and she let out a long sigh. The emperor is currently, sigh, all these years. I have found the emperor's temper increasingly difficult to fathom. He is suspicious by nature. If it were just my word, how would he ever believe me? Instead, he would think I am fabricating clues, intentionally trying to deflect blame. The emperor now won't believe anyone. Then, what are we to do? Are we to let father and brother remain locked up indefinitely, without knowing if they live or die? I pondered, my movements pausing suddenly, having apparently reached a certain resolve. Mother, there is one person whose word he might listen to. Who? Me. A few days ago, I wouldn't have dared to say this. Although I had a good relationship with Xie Lin and often followed him as a child, but 5 years have passed, and Xie Lin has changed too much. I wasn't sure I could make him believe me. But after everything that happened in the study 2 days ago, I vaguely felt that Xie Lin cares for me quite a bit. Words from someone who has passed away. Perhaps he will believe them. That night, ever since the poisoning incident occurred, Xie Lin has been staying in the garden where the spring banquet was held. Because all the guests have dispersed, the vast garden appeared exceptionally desolate. The few suspects have all been confined to the other side of the courtyard. The emperor did not order them to be interrogated, nor did he intentionally make things difficult for them, but instead kept them well fed and well served, except for the fact that they cannot leave and cannot contact anyone from the outside. All their other needs were being met. Xie Lin lay on the daybed in the study. Ever since that day, he has spent most of his time here. At this moment, there are no lamps lit in the room. Everything is pitch black. His eyes were slightly closed as if he had already fallen into a deep sleep. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in, blowing the study's tightly shut windows wide open within the night. An eerie white silhouette flashed past from outside. Xie Lin suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was clear. He hadn't fallen asleep at all, but had been waiting the entire time. He had been waiting for 2 full days. Finally, you've come. Xie Lin's emotions were stirred, his blood seemingly beginning to boil. Yet he remained calm and composed. Only his right hand, clutching his pale yellow inner garment, tightened involuntarily. Veins bulging, the dark shadow outside the window drifted and hovered, as if suspended by nothing at all. Long hair obscured its face, doubling outside the window like a phantom. A long shadow was cast upon the window, and a faint ethereal voice drifted in, fractured by the wind. On the couch, Xie Lin's body tensed like a drawn bow. His soul was screaming wildly, a tearing pain surging in his chest. His entire being was calling out that person's name. In all the world, only one person would call him that. Was he right? Was his gamble correct? Was the one he waited for finally here? Xie Lin gritted his teeth, summoning all his willpower to keep from bolting out the door, choosing instead to wait in silence. Only after it called out 2 more times did he feign having been startled awake, slowly opening his eyes. Feigning panic, he raised his voice to respond. Who is out there? It is me, Brother Lin. Yanyan, is that you? Aren't you already dead? Why have you come to find me? Through the window. His voice sounded panicked and fearful, betraying nothing amiss. But if someone were to open the window now and look at his face, they would see that Xie Lin looked nearly insane. The greed in his eyes enough to consume everything. The white shadow drifted by like a specter, accompanied by a voice that seemed to shift between near and far. Brother Lin, those who seek to harm you are a man and a woman. They were the ones who poisoned the banquet twice. Do not mistake the innocent for them. Xie Lin narrowed his eyes, looking at the shadow on the window, and asked, "How do you know this? I have always been by." Brother Lin sighed. "I saw it with my own eyes. Beyond this, Yanyan, do you know anything else? What are their names? What do they look like? What are their backgrounds?" The ghost's voice outside the window paused for a moment, as if thinking, but a moment later it simply repeated, "A man, a woman they are, a man and a woman. My message has been delivered." The white figure began to drift slowly backward. Xie Lin's expression shifted. He swiftly gestured with his hand, and in the darkness, the shadow guards, long since lying in ambush, emerged silently. In the blink of an eye, they had surrounded the ghostly figure. Since he had set this trap, how could he have failed to prepare for it? The white-clad ghost suddenly realized her path of retreat was cut off. Surrounded by shadow guards, she grew visibly flustered, collapsing onto the ground in a panic. She wore a loose white robe, her long, disheveled hair hanging down to cover her face, but a rope was tied around her waist leading up to a tree. By pulling the rope, she could be made to float back and forth in the air. This ghostly figure was actually just a person. The study door opened and Xie Lin stepped out. Under the moonlight, he saw the figure sitting on the ground clearly. His heart gave a violent jolt. Before this, everything had been mere baseless speculation, the final sliver of delusion in his heart. But seeing her before his eyes now, he was so happy he nearly fainted. Yanyan. Yanyan. His Yanyan had truly returned. Whether she was ghost or human, she had come back. Xie Lin's body tensed with a terrifying amount of force. His muscles and bones ached as if crying out in pain, but none of it mattered compared to the near-shattering sweetness in his chest. He was so overjoyed he never even dreamed, 5 years after Yanyan's death, that he would see her again. "Yanyan." He spoke softly, his voice raspy to the extreme, his burning gaze fixed upon the figure sitting on the ground. There was no response from her. "Yanyan, is that you?" he called out again. He gritted his teeth hard, forcing his emotions to remain calm. He must not act too wildly, or he might scare Yanyan off. Yet even so, as he walked before her and slowly crouched down, reaching out to brush aside her hair, his hands were still trembling. The tangled locks of hair on the ghost's face were slowly pushed aside.